Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, let me ask you about your recent home purchase. On June 15, 2025, you and your partner Riley Roberts purchased a $4.2 million mansion in Wesley Heights, one of D.C.'s most exclusive neighborhoods. You paid cash, no mortgage, $4.2 million cash. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino's voice filled the House Ethics Committee hearing room. He wasn't shouting, wasn't being dramatic, just stating facts in that calm cop who knows he's got you tone that made every word land harder. He paused. Let that number sink in. Your congressional salary is $174,000 per year. You've been in Congress for 6 years. Even if you saved every penny, which you didn't, you'd have just over $1 million. So, I'm asking you a simple question. Where did the other $3 million come from? Silence. Complete, heavy, crushing silence. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sat at the witness table. 3 expensive lawyers in tailored suits flanking her. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. The Democratic Socialist Congresswoman, who'd built her entire brand fighting wealthy elites, was surrounded by attorneys who probably charged more per hour than most of her constituents made in a day. It was November 3, 2025. A closed-door session of the House Ethics Committee deep in the Capitol basement. Technically closed to the press and public, but being recorded for the official record, the room was packed. Every committee member present. Staff lined the walls, stenographers capturing every word. Everyone knew something big was about to break. AOC wore a burgundy blazer over a black top, gold hoop earrings, her signature bold red lipstick. The carefully cultivated aesthetic of the working-class congresswoman from the Bronx, relatable, authentic one of the people. She'd turned that look into a brand worth millions. Magazine covers, fashion blog features, viral social media moments. But sitting across from Dan Bongino with his binders full of financial records, she didn't look quite so confident anymore. There was tension in her jaw. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. Her eyes kept darting to her lawyers, looking for guidance that wasn't coming. She'd thought this hearing was about the Met Gala dress controversy from last year. The rich dress she'd worn that had triggered conservatives so beautifully. Old news, easily defensible, already explained to death on Twitter. She had no idea she was about to be confronted with 14 months of FBI financial investigation showing she'd become a multimillionaire by grifting the working-class supporters she claimed to represent. Bongino sat calmly at the witness table. Former NYPD cop, former Secret Service agent who'd protected presidents, current deputy director of the FBI. He looked exactly like what he was, someone who'd spent decades following money trails and building cases against criminals. Next to him sat Special Agent Jennifer Martinez, from the Financial Crimes Unit laptop open, ready to pull up any document they needed. In front of Bongino were 2 thick binders with official FBI markings. He'd spent the morning reviewing every page one final time. Bank records, wire transfer documentation, LLC formation papers, tax returns, real estate deeds, photographs of mansions, and designer gowns. 14 months of investigation distilled into evidence that couldn't be spun away. AOC tried to answer his question about the mansion. Her voice came out defensive, almost rehearsed. My finances are private. This is harassment of a woman of color who dares to challenge the establishment. Your finances became public interest, Bongino interrupted smoothly. When you bought a mansion you can't possibly afford on a government salary while claiming to represent working people. Let me show you where the money came from. He pulled out bank statements, slid copies across the table to each committee member with a practiced motion. The sound of paper sliding across polished wood was the only noise in the room. 3 wire transfers, all within 1 week of your home purchase. He pointed to the highlighted transactions. June 8th, $1.2 million from an LLC called Progressive Future Fund, registered in Delaware, no disclosed donors. June 10th, $1.5 million from Grassroots Action Network, another Delaware LLC, also no disclosed donors. June 12th, $1.5 million from Democratic Advancement Coalition. You guessed it, Delaware LLC. No disclosed donors. He looked up from the documents, let his eyes meet hers. These aren't grassroots donations from working people giving $15 because they believe in you. These are dark money vehicles, shell companies designed to hide where funding comes from. And we traced them. Took us months, but we followed every dollar. They all led back to the same place. He paused, made her wait for it. George Soros linked progressive donor networks. Billionaire money funneled through these shell companies into your personal LLC to buy you a mansion. The room stirred murmurs, shifting in seats. This was bigger than anyone had expected. Bongino wasn't done. He clicked a remote, and an image appeared on the screen at the front of the room. A flowchart showing money movement through multiple organizations, each connection traced with a colored line. Let me walk you through this, he said, standing and moving toward the screen. Start here at the top, Open Society Foundations. That's George Soros's main vehicle. Money flows from there to Democracy Alliance. That's the coordination network where billionaire progressive donors decide who to fund and how much. From Democracy Alliance, the money splits into these 3 Delaware LLCs I mentioned, and from all 3 of those within the same week in June, the money flows to your personal LLC. 1.2 million, 1.5, another 1.5, adding up to exactly $4.2 million, the exact price of your mansion. He turned back to face her. You've built your entire political brand on fighting billionaires, on attacking dark money and politics, on claiming to represent the working class against the wealthy elite. But you've been bought by the billionaires you claim to oppose. You've taken their dark money, the exact same dark money you spend every day on Twitter condemning, to buy yourself a mansion in one of America's wealthiest neighborhoods. AOC started to protest, but Bongino raised his hand slightly. And that's just the mansion. That's just where we're starting. Let me show you the rest of it. The boyfriend getting $1.6 million in campaign consulting fees for work nobody can identify. The $35,000 Met Gala tickets that violated gift rules. The $150,000 in designer clothes you wore and never reported. The book deal arranged by Soros-funded publishers. The luxury lifestyle funded by working-class supporters who actually believe you're one of them. He opened his first binder with a deliberate motion. The sound of the spine cracking seemed loud in the silent room. Let me show this committee exactly how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez turned democratic socialism into a personal enrichment scheme. AOC's lead attorney, Mark Elias, one of the Democratic Party's most expensive and connected lawyers, leaned forward to object, but Chairman Michael Guest cut him off with a sharp look. Mr. Elias, the deputy director will present his findings. Then your client will have an opportunity to respond. Bongino nodded at the chairman, then looked back at AOC. His voice got quieter, more personal. You entered Congress in 2019 with a net worth of about $7,000, had some student loan debt, worked as a bartender. That was the story, right? The classic working-class narrative that got you elected. 6 years later, you're worth approximately $4.8 million. That's not a typo. $4.8 million on a salary of $174,000 per year. He let that hang in the air for a moment. The math doesn't work. It's impossible unless you've been doing something other than serving your constituents. and I'm going to show you exactly what that something is." He settled back into his chair, opened the binder fully. "Let's start with that mansion." And with those words, he began laying out a case that would destroy everything Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez had built. The carefully crafted image of the Democratic Socialist bartender from the Bronx was about to be revealed as the biggest fraud in modern progressive politics. To understand how we got here, how the working-class hero ended up owning a $4 million mansion bought with billionaire money, you have to go back 12 hours earlier, when she walked into her office thinking this was just another Republican harassment session she could tweet through. 12 hours earlier, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sat in her congressional office reviewing the subpoena that had arrived by courier the previous week. The document was frustratingly vague. Subpoena to testify before the House Committee on Ethics. Subject: financial irregularities and potential violations of House rules. That was it. No details, no specifics, just a date, time, and location, and a warning that failure to appear would result in contempt charges. Her communications director, Saikat Chakrabarti, sat across from her, scrolling through his tablet. He'd been with her since the beginning, recruited her to run through Justice Democrats back in 2017, managed her shocking primary upset of Joe Crowley, helped build her into a national phenomenon. He looked up from his screen with a dismissive wave. "They're fishing. This is about the Met Gala address from last year. Republicans are still mad about it. The whole tax the rich thing triggered them so badly they can't let it go. They want to make it seem like some ethics violation." AOC nodded, her thumb scrolling through Twitter on her phone. The mentions were supportive as always, her army of followers already defending her against a hearing that hadn't even happened yet. "We already explained all that. Aurora loaned me the dress. The ticket was work-related. The Met Gala raises money for arts education. I disclosed everything that needed disclosing. This is just more of the same harassment, because I'm effective." Her phone rang. Mark Elias joining the conversation. His voice came through the speaker carrying that expensive lawyer confidence that cost $1,500 an hour to access. "The subpoena is intentionally vague, which tells me they're on a fishing expedition. Could be the Met Gala. Could be some campaign finance reporting delays. We've had a few late filings, but nothing remotely criminal. Could be responding to frivolous FEC complaints from right-wing groups. So how should I approach it?" AOC asked. Elias had the answer ready. He always did. Simple messaging. You're a working-class woman of color who threatens the establishment. Every attack on you is proof you're being effective. Republicans are terrified of you because you actually fight for people instead of corporations. This is political persecution disguised as oversight. Stay on that message and you'll be fine. Saikat pulled up polling data on his tablet, turning it to show her. Your approval in the district is 71%. Nationally, among Democrats, 68% favorable. Your Twitter following just hit 13.2 million. You're more famous than most senators. This hearing is just going to make you more famous and make Republicans look petty and obsessed. AOC felt her confidence return. She'd survived everything thrown at her over 6 years. Trump had called her a communist nearly every week. Fox News had covered her like she was running for president. Right-wing media had manufactured countless scandals. Her college expenses, where she really lived, her boyfriend's background, her family history. That video of her dancing in college that was somehow supposed to be scandalous. None of it stuck. Every attack made her more popular with her base, more famous nationally, more powerful within the Democratic Party. She'd mastered the playbook. When attacked, claim victim status. Call it racism or sexism, depending on who the attacker was. Rally her massive online following. Get friendly media to defend her. Turn it into a fundraising opportunity. Within 48 hours of any controversy, she'd typically raise $500,000 from small donors eager to support her against the establishment. Why would this time be different? What AOC didn't know, couldn't have known, was that this wasn't a political attack. This was an FBI financial crimes investigation. For 14 months, Special Agent Jennifer Martinez and her team had been quietly following money trails, subpoenaing bank records from financial institutions, tracing wire transfers through multiple jurisdictions, examining LLC formation documents filed in Delaware, building a case brick by brick like prosecutors do when they know they only get one shot. And they'd found something. Something big. Something that couldn't be explained away with a viral tweet thread. At that exact moment, 3,000 miles away at FBI headquarters in Quantico, Virginia, Dan Bongino was running through final prep with his investigative team. The secure conference room walls were covered with printed flowcharts showing money movement between organizations, photographs of the mansion she'd bought, screenshots of designer gowns at celebrity events, bank statements with transactions highlighted in yellow, wire transfer confirmations, a visual representation of systematic financial fraud spread across every available surface. Bongino was 51 years old, still built like someone who worked out like he was protecting presidents, even though he spent most days behind a desk. Now, he'd grown up in Queens, not far from where AOC claimed her Bronx roots, song he'd actually lived there, unlike her carefully curated narrative. He'd worked some of New York's toughest neighborhoods as an NYPD officer, protected President Bush during some of the most dangerous periods after 9/11. He knew what real public service looked like, and he knew a grifter when he saw one. Special Agent Jennifer Martinez stood at a whiteboard covered in timelines and financial calculations. She was 45, had spent her entire adult life following money, first at the SEC going after insider traders, then 15 years at the FBI's white-collar crime division, taking down corrupt executives and politicians. This case was among the most brazen she'd ever built. A sitting member of Congress who'd enriched herself by millions while her public image was all about fighting for the poor. "Final walkthrough," Martinez said, clicking through slides on a secure monitor. "We've got 14 months of financial investigation. Started when the Office of Congressional Ethics flagged unusual deposits to an LLC owned by AOC and her boyfriend, Riley Roberts. We pulled the records. What we found goes way beyond anything OCE imagined." She brought up a chart showing net worth over time. The line was almost flat from 2019 to 2021, then shot upward at a sharp angle starting in 2022. When she entered Congress in January 2019, her financial disclosure showed net worth of approximately $7,000. She disclosed student loan debt of $17,000. Checking account balance under $2,000, typical for a 29-year-old bartender, which is what she was. Martinez clicked to the current figure. Today, based on assets we've identified and can document, her net worth is approximately $4.8 million. Bongino looked at the graph. The vertical climb was absurd. Congressional salary is $174. Even if she saved every penny for 6 years, which is impossible, she'd have maybe $1 million. Where did the other $3.8 million come from? Multiple sources, Martinez said, bringing up the next section of her presentation. Let me walk through each revenue stream we've identified and documented. She started with the boyfriend angle. Riley Roberts runs a company called Digital Outreach Strategies. Over the past 4 years, this company has received $1.6 million in payments from PACs closely aligned with AOC. Justice Democrats, that's the PAC that recruited her. Courage to Change, that's her own leadership PAC. Brand New Congress, closely aligned with Justice Democrats. Special Agent Tom Wilson spoke up from where he sat reviewing documents at the conference table. We examined the work product extensively, interviewed people at these PACs under oath, asked them specifically what Riley delivered for $1.6 million. Know what we found? Nothing. No websites we can attribute to him. No email campaigns. No social media strategies we can identify as his work. When we pressed the PAC officials, they got vague, said he consulted on digital strategy, but no documents exist, no reports, no emails showing advice, just invoices and payments. Martinez nodded. Classic corruption scheme. Hire your partner's company. Pay them with donor money, no actual work required. Money flows to the partner, becomes household income. Politician benefits personally while maintaining plausible deniability. She moved to the next section, book deal and speaking fees. Her book came out in 2022. She's made about $800,000 in royalties and advances. But here's where it gets interesting. The publisher's ownership structure appeared on screen. The publisher is partially owned by an investment firm that receives funding from Soros-linked donors and bulk purchases. Hundreds of thousands of dollars worth were made by the same PACs that employ her boyfriend. Courage to Change. PAC bought $180,000 worth of her books. Justice Democrats bought $120,000 worth. These aren't real sales to actual readers. This is money laundering disguised as book purchases. Wilson added more context. We talked to bookstore owners, asked if they saw bulk orders from these organizations. They didn't. The books went straight to storage in most cases. This was just a mechanism to funnel money to her through inflated royalty payments. Martinez clicked to the main event. Now, the big one. Dark money LLCs. We identified 3 Delaware LLCs that made transfers totaling $4.2 million to AOC's personal accounts in June 2025. Progressive Future Fund, Grassroots Action Network, Democratic Advancement Coalition. She brought up the money flow diagram. We spent months tracing these. All 3 connect back to Democracy Alliance, a donor coordination network organized by George Soros, Tom Steyer, and other billionaire progressive donors. Here's how it works. She traced it step by step on the screen. Billionaire donors contribute to Democracy Alliance. Democracy Alliance creates or funds these shell LLCs, dozens of them, actually, for different candidates and causes. The LLCs make transfers that look like independent expenditures or grants, but they're really ways to move billionaire money to politicians while hiding the source. Bank records filled the screen. June 2025, 3 wire transfers to Bronx Future Holdings. That's an LLC owned by AOC and Riley Roberts. $1.22 million on June 8th, $1.5 million on June 10th. Another $1.5 on June 12th. 1 week later, Bronx Future Holdings purchases a mansion for $402 million. Cash. The timing is perfect because it is what it looks like. Bongino studied the mansion photos, the brick facade, the manicured grounds, the upscale neighborhood. She's being funded by the exact billionaires she claims to fight. Completely, Martinez confirmed, and it shows in her voting record. We analyzed every vote she's cast on issues important to Soros and Democracy Alliance. Immigration policy, 100% alignment with their positions. Criminal justice, 100%. Climate policy that benefits renewable energy companies Soros invests in, 100%. She's not an independent voice. She's a paid spokesperson voting exactly as her funders want. Wilson pulled up another category of evidence. Then there's the unreported gifts. Met Gala is the perfect example. The ticket alone costs $35,000. The custom dress was valued at $12,000. Hair and makeup, Another 3,000. Total gift value $50,000. House rules are crystal clear. Gifts over 300 must be declined or reimbursed. She did neither. He showed more photos. But that's just one event. We documented her appearances at major events over 3 years. Versace gowns, Tory Birch custom pieces, Carolina Herrera, Schiaparelli, all supposedly loaned to her for the exposure. Total value of designer clothing, we can document over $150,000, all unreported. Martinez added the final category: campaign fund conversion. She's been charging personal expenses to campaign accounts, first-class flights to fashion shows, and events that have nothing to do with her district. Luxury hotels in cities where she has no campaign activity. Expensive dinners. We estimate at least $200,000 in personal expenses illegally charged to campaign funds over 4 years. Bongino leaned back, processing it all. So we've got the boyfriend getting $1.6 million for phantom work, a book deal rigged through Soros network, $4.2 million in dark money for the mansion, $150,000 in designer gifts, $200,000 in campaign fund misuse. And all of this while she tweets every day about fighting billionaires and banning dark money. The hypocrisy, Wilson said, pulling up her Twitter feed, is absolutely off the charts. He showed tweets side by side with evidence. One tweet from 2021, "No politician should take money from billionaires. Period." 340,000 likes. Next to it, a bank transfer showing $1.2 million from a Soros-funded LLC. Another tweet from 2022, "Dark money is corrupting our democracy. We must ban it." 280,000 likes. Next to it, the 3 wire transfers totaling $4.2 million from dark money vehicles. A video clip of her speaking. "I'll never forget where I came from. I'll always represent working people, not the elite." Next to it, photographs of the $4 million mansion in Wesley Heights, one of D.C.'s wealthiest neighborhoods. Bongino absorbed it all, then asked the key strategic question. How do we present this to maximize impact and minimize her ability to spin it? Martinez had thought this through carefully. We start with the mansion. That's the thing she absolutely cannot explain. $4.2 million in cash on her salary. Make her try to explain where it came from. She can't. We have the bank records showing the wire transfers. We have the LLC documents. We have the deed. She's trapped before we even get to everything else. Then we show the dark money trail. We put up the flow chart showing money flowing from Soros through Democracy Alliance through the LLCs to her account. We destroy her grassroots progressive brand in one visual. Then the boyfriend scheme. We show $1.6 million in payments for work nobody can identify. Even her supporters will recognize that as corruption. Then the gifts and luxury lifestyle. We show her living like a celebrity. Designer gowns, exclusive events, luxury travel, while claiming to be working class. Then we hit her with the tax returns. We subpoenaed them. They show her reported income doesn't match her assets and lifestyle. That implies unreported income, potential tax evasion. Finally, we show her voting record alongside the Soros funding. We prove she's bought. She votes exactly as her billionaire funders want on every single issue. Bongino thought about the defenses she'd deploy. She's going to scream that this is sexist, racist, the establishment attacking a woman of color who fights for change. That's her entire playbook. Let her, Martinez said firmly. We have bank records. We have wire transfers. We have LLC documents. We have deed records. We have tax returns. This isn't opinion or bias. This is math. And math doesn't care about identity politics. Wilson added, "The media will try to protect her initially. She's their progressive hero, but we're releasing everything publicly. When people see the mansion, see the Soros money, see the boyfriend getting paid millions for nothing, even MSNBC is going to have trouble defending it." Bongino stood up, started gathering his materials. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez spent 6 years building a brand as the authentic voice of working people. The democratic socialist who fights billionaires. The bartender who took on the machine. Every bit of it was a lie. She saw an opportunity. Progressive politics is trendy. Young people eat it up. And she used it to get rich. Not to help her constituents, to enrich herself. He picked up the binder containing the mansion photos, looked at the beautiful brick estate that cost more than most of her constituents would make in their entire lives combined. $4.2 million. That's what her democratic socialism bought her. Let's go show Congress what their progressive star has really been doing. At 1:30 that afternoon, AOC's motorcade pulled up to the Capitol. She'd made sure friendly photographers knew what time she'd arrive. The optics of walking into another Republican witch hunt were important to her brand. She stepped out of the black SUV looking camera-ready. Burgundy blazer, gold hoops, the people's champion heading into battle against the establishment. She walked through the Capitol with her legal team and chief of staff down to the basement level, where committee hearing rooms were located. As she approached, she noticed more security presence than usual, more staff hovering around. The energy felt different somehow. At 1:55, she entered the hearing room. The atmosphere immediately felt wrong. The committee members looked too serious. Even the Democrats weren't giving her supportive smiles or whispered words of encouragement like they usually did. And, at the witness table, she saw him, Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI himself, not some junior agent, the number 2 person in the entire bureau with another agent beside him. And those binders, multiple thick binders with official markings, something cold settled in her stomach. This wasn't about a dress. This was something else entirely. At exactly 2:00, Chairman Michael Guest gave the hearing to order. His voice was formal, serious. This hearing is called to order. We are conducting a closed-door session of the House Ethics Committee to examine potential violations of House rules, federal campaign finance law, gift regulations, and tax law by Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York's 14th Congressional District. He paused, looked directly at her. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has been conducting a financial investigation for 14 months. Deputy Director Bongino has requested to brief this committee on the findings. This is an extremely serious matter. Deputy Director, you may proceed. Bongino stood, looked at AOC with the steady, unwavering gaze of someone who'd interviewed countless suspects and knew when they were guilty before the first question was even asked. "Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez," he began, his voice calm and measured. "You've built your political career on a very specific narrative. You're a working-class woman from the Bronx who fights for working people against billionaires and the corrupt establishment. You've called for taxing the rich. You've called for banning dark money in politics. You've called for ending the influence of wealthy donors. You've presented yourself as authentic, as someone who truly represents ordinary Americans because you came from that world." He paused. Let that sink in. "I'm here to show this committee that every bit of that is a lie. That you've enriched yourself massively while in Congress. That you're funded by the exact billionaires you claim to oppose. That you violated campaign finance laws, gift rules, and tax laws. that you're living a life of luxury by grifting the working-class people who believe you actually represent them. He opened his first binder. Let's start with your mansion. AOC's confident expression faltered just for a second, but everyone in that room saw it, and they knew this was going to be devastating. Bongino pulled out a folder and opened it deliberately. Inside were real estate documents and photographs. He slid the first photo across to the committee members. On June 15th of this year, less than 5 months ago, you purchased a property located at 3047 Woodley Road Northwest in the Wesley Heights neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Let me show everyone what you bought. He clicked his remote. The screen at the front of the room lit up with a photograph of a stunning brick mansion. Beautiful architecture, mature trees, manicured lawn, the kind of house that screamed serious money. That's the front, Bongino said. 5,800 square feet, 6 bedrooms, 5.5 bathrooms. He clicked through more photos. The gourmet kitchen with marble countertops and commercial-grade stainless steel appliances. A wine cellar with climate-controlled storage for 500 bottles. A home theater with stadium seating that looked like it belonged in a commercial cinema. An infinity pool overlooking professionally landscaped grounds. A 3-car garage that was bigger than most apartments in her district. This home, Bongino continued, is located in Wesley Heights. For those unfamiliar with D.C. neighborhoods, Wesley Heights is one of the most exclusive areas in the city. The median home price there is $3.1 million. Your neighbors include Fortune 500 CEOs, senior partners at major law firms, and lobbyists who make more in a year than most Americans will see in a lifetime. This is not a working-class neighborhood, Congresswoman. This is where the wealthy elite live. He let that contrast hang in the air for a moment, then pulled out the purchase documents. The property was purchased by an LLC called Bronx Future Holdings. Interesting name, Bronx Future, for someone buying a mansion in one of D.C.'s richest neighborhoods. The LLC is registered in Delaware, not New York. You and Riley Roberts are listed as the managing members. He looked up at her. The purchase price was $4,200,000. And here's what's remarkable. You paid cash. No mortgage, no financing, no monthly payments. $4.2 million in cash just appeared and bought you this house. Bongino flipped to another page. Now, your congressional salary is $174,000 per year. You've been in Congress since January 2019. That's 6 years and 10 months. Your total congressional salary over that entire time is approximately $1,160,000. He did the math out loud slowly. Even if you somehow managed to save every single penny of your salary, paid no federal taxes, no state taxes, no rent, bought no food, made no student loan payments, had zero living expenses of any kind, you would have $1.16 million. You bought a house for $4.2 million. That leaves $3.04 million completely unaccounted for. He closed the folder, looked directly at her. So, I'm asking you a simple question. Where did that $3 million come from? Silence. AOC looked at her lawyers. Mark Elias leaned over and whispered something. She nodded slightly, but didn't speak. Bongino waited. Let the silence stretch out. 10 seconds, 15, 20. Finally, he spoke again. Let me show you exactly where it came from. He pulled out bank statements, passed copies to each committee member. These are the bank records for Bronx Future Holdings, LLC. The account was opened on May 30th of this year, brand new entity. For the first 2 weeks, the account balance was $0. Then, in the span of less than 1 week, the account received 3 large wire transfers. He pointed to the highlighted transactions. June 8th, wire transfer of $200,000. The sender is listed as Progressive Future Fund, LLC. The memo line says, quote, grant disbursement, unquote. June 10th, wire transfer of $1,500,000. The sender is Grassroots Action Network, LLC. Memo line says, quote, political support, unquote. June 12th, wire transfer of $500,000. The sender is Democratic Advancement Coalition, LLC. Memo line says, quote, movement building, unquote. He looked at the committee. 3 transfers in 5 days. Total $200,000, the exact amount needed to purchase the mansion. And 3 days after that final transfer, the LLC closed on the house. Paid cash. Transaction complete. Representative Virginia Fox, the Republican from North Carolina, raised her hand. Deputy Director, what are these LLCs? Who's behind them? Bongino nodded. That's the critical question, Congresswoman Fox. And that's where this gets really interesting. He clicked his remote, and a complex flow chart appeared on the screen. Lines connecting various organizations in a web of financial relationships. All 3 of these LLCs are registered in Delaware. Delaware is well known as a haven for shell companies because it allows minimal disclosure requirements. These 3 LLCs have no public donor lists, no websites, no physical offices. They exist purely as vehicles to move money around while obscuring where it's really coming from. He used a laser pointer to trace the connections on the chart. We spent months tracking these organizations down. Subpoenaed banking records from multiple institutions, followed the money back through several layers. Here's what we found. He pointed to the top of the chart. Progressive Future Fund received its funding from an organization called Democracy Alliance. Grassroots Action Network also received its funding from Democracy Alliance. Democratic Advancement Coalition, same source. All 3 shell LLCs were funded by Democracy Alliance. And what is Democracy Alliance? Fox asked. Bongino had the answer ready. It's a donor coordination network for billionaire progressive donors, founded and primarily funded by George Soros through his Open Society foundations. Other major donors include Tom Steyer, members of the Pritzker family, and various Silicon Valley billionaires. Democracy Alliance essentially coordinates giving among wealthy progressive donors to maximize their political impact. He showed financial documents on screen. In 2024 and 2025, Democracy Alliance received over $600 million from these billionaire donors. They then distributed that money to various organizations, PACs, and as we see here, shell LLCs that make payments to politicians while hiding the original source. Representative Jamie Raskin, the Democrat from Maryland, looked troubled. He'd been generally sympathetic to AOC in the past. Deputy Director, are you saying that Representative Ocasio-Cortez received $5 million from George Soros? From Soros-linked organizations? Yes, sir. Approximately $5 million that we've been able to document so far. There may be additional amounts we haven't uncovered yet. The room erupted in murmurs, committee members whispering to each other, staff scribbling notes. AOC sat frozen, her face pale. Bongino continued, the money that bought Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez mansion came from George Soros and other billionaires. It was laundered through Democracy Alliance and 3 shell LLCs to hide the source. It went to her personal LLC, not to her campaign or any political organization, and it was used to buy her a $4 million house in one of America's wealthiest neighborhoods. He paused. Let that sink in fully. She's being funded by the exact billionaires she claims to fight against. Bongino moved to his next section without missing a beat. Now, I want to talk about Riley Roberts, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez's longtime partner. He operates a company called Digital Outreach Strategies. Congresswoman, can you tell us what this company does? AOC looked at Mark Elias, who leaned forward. My client is not required to have detailed knowledge of her partner's business operations. Fair enough, Bongino said smoothly. Let me tell you what we found. He pulled out corporate documents. Digital Outreach Strategies was incorporated in New York in January 2021. That's 1 month after Representative Ocasio-Cortez won her second term. According to the corporate filing, the company provides, and I'm quoting here, digital marketing and outreach consulting services to political organizations. He looked at the documents for a moment, then back up. We examined this company's operations very thoroughly, pulled every public record, interviewed clients and associates. Here's what we discovered. He ticked items off on his fingers as he spoke. Digital Outreach Strategies has no website. Kind of ironic for a digital outreach company, but there it is. No LinkedIn company page. No social media presence whatsoever. No office space beyond Riley Roberts' home address. No employees other than Roberts himself. And here's the interesting part. Only one category of clients. He pulled out payment records. The only organizations that have ever paid Digital Outreach Strategies are political action committees closely aligned with Representative Ocasio-Cortez. Let me walk you through them. Justice Democrats. That's the PAC that recruited AOC to run in 2018. They identified her, trained her, funded her primary campaign against Joe Crowley. Courage to Change. That's Representative Ocasio-Cortez's own leadership PAC that she founded and controls. Brand New Congress. That's closely aligned with Justice Democrats and actively supported her campaigns. He showed the payment records. Over the past 4 years, Riley Roberts' company has received significant payments from these 3 PACs. In 2021, Justice Democrats paid him $180,000. Brand New Congress paid another $120,000. The following year, the amounts increased. Justice Democrats paid $240,000. Courage to Change paid $180,000. In 2023, Courage to Change paid $310,000, and Justice Democrats added another $190,000. Then last year, 2024, Courage to Change paid $380,000, and Justice Democrats contributed $200,000 more. He paused, did the math out loud. Total over 4 years, won $600,000. He let that number hang there. $1.6 million paid to the boyfriend of a sitting member of Congress by PACs she's intimately connected to. So naturally, we asked, what did he do to earn that money? Special Agent Martinez spoke up from her seat. We interviewed officials from all 3 PACs under oath, asked them specifically to describe what Riley Roberts delivered for $1.6 million. She pulled out deposition transcripts. Timothy O'Malley, Executive Director of Justice Democrats. We asked him what Digital Outreach Strategies produced. He said, quote, "We hired them for strategic consulting on digital campaigns. I don't recall specific deliverables. I believe Riley provided general advice on social media strategy." End quote. We then asked him to produce any documents, emails, reports, or work product from Roberts. He said they don't have formal reports, that it was, quote, more informal consultation, end quote. She flipped to another transcript. Sophia Chen, Director of Courage to Change PAC. We asked what digital outreach delivered for $380,000 in 2024 alone. She said, quote, Riley Roberts provided valuable insights into our digital presence, end quote. We asked what specific insights. She said, strategic thinking about online engagement. It's hard to quantify exactly, end quote. Martinez looked up. We interviewed 6 different people across these 3 PACs. Not a single one could identify specific work product. Not one could show us a website Roberts built, an email campaign he designed, or a social media strategy document he wrote. Not a single concrete deliverable, just vague language about consulting and strategic advice. Bongino added more context. We also looked into Riley Roberts' background and qualifications. He has a bachelor's degree in finance from Boston University. Fine school. Good degree. Before Representative Ocasio-Cortez ran for Congress, he worked in marketing for a small tech startup called Homebinder. His salary there was approximately $65,000 a year. He has no professional background in political campaigning, no experience running digital outreach programs, no portfolio of successful campaigns we can identify. He pulled up Roberts' sparse resume. Yet somehow, right after his girlfriend becomes a member of Congress, he's suddenly worth $400,000 a year as a digital consultant. Despite having no experience in the field, despite producing no identifiable work product, despite having no other clients, the only logical explanation is that he's being paid because of who he's sleeping with. Representative James Comer spoke up. Deputy Director, this sounds like a classic pay-to-play scheme. That's exactly what it is, Congressman. Politicians can't directly take money from PACs for personal use. That's illegal and obvious. But they can hire their spouse or partner's company, pay that company inflated rates for minimal or non-existent work. The money goes to the partner's business account, then becomes household income. The politician personally benefits from campaign funds while maintaining plausible deniability. Martinez added one more detail. We also reviewed Riley Roberts' tax returns. He has reported all this income. We're not alleging tax evasion on his part. But here's what's interesting. His business expenses are minimal. He's reporting profit margins over 90%. That means he's pocketing almost all the money with virtually no costs. Why? Because he's not actually running a business. He's not hiring staff, renting office space, buying equipment, or paying for services. He's just receiving payments and keeping the money. Bongino shifted to the bigger picture. Let me show you the full scope of how Representative Ocasio-Cortez is actually funded. This isn't a grassroots movement of small-dollar donors like she claims. This is billionaire money being laundered through a sophisticated network of organizations. The screen lit up with a massive flowchart. At the top, several boxes representing billionaire donors, lines flowing downward through various intermediary organizations, eventually reaching a box at the bottom labeled with AOC's name. Start at the top, Bongino said, using his laser pointer. George Soros, through Open Society Foundations, contributes about $250 million annually to progressive causes. Tom Steyer, through Next Gen America, adds another $75 million. The Pritzker family, through their various foundations, contribute about $40 million. Silicon Valley billionaires, through tech industry PACs, add roughly $180 million more. All told, we're talking about $500 million a year from wealthy donors. He traced the money flow downward. These donors don't just randomly give to causes. They coordinate through Democracy Alliance, which strategically decides which progressive candidates and causes to fund. In 2024, we obtained internal Democracy Alliance documents that specifically identified Representative Ocasio-Cortez as a, quote, top-tier priority, end quote. Their assessment described her as a, quote, highly effective spokesperson for progressive policies with massive social media reach, end quote. The laser pointer moved to the next layer. Democracy Alliance then funds or creates multiple organizations and shell LLCs, Progressive Future Fund, Grassroots Action Network, Democratic Advancement Coalition, the Sunrise Movement, Make the Road Action, Working Families Party, and approximately 25 other entities we've identified. And he showed how the connections branched out. These organizations all support Representative Ocasio-Cortez in various ways. Some make independent expenditures supporting her campaigns. Some hire her boyfriend's company for phantom consulting work. Some make grants to her personal LLCs. Some purchase bulk quantities of her book. It's a comprehensive funding ecosystem designed to enrich her while maintaining the appearance of grassroots support. Bongino pulled up a summary page. We estimate that Soros-linked organizations have spent approximately $82 million supporting Representative Ocasio-Cortez over the past 6 years. That breaks down as follows. He read through the categories. $3.1 million in independent expenditures for her campaigns, $4.2 million in transfers to her personal LLCs. That's the mansion money. $1.6 million to her boyfriend's phantom consulting company. $800,000 in book bulk purchases that inflated her royalties, and approximately $500,000 in other support like event sponsorships, media promotion, and paid social media boosting. $8.2 million from the billionaire class she claims to oppose. He paused, then asked the obvious question. Why? Why would billionaires give $8 million to a socialist who says she wants to destroy them? He clicked to the next slide, a voting record analysis. Because she votes exactly how they want her to. We analyzed every single vote Representative Ocasio-Cortez has cast on issues important to George Soros and the Democracy Alliance donor network. He went through the categories. Immigration policy. She's voted for open borders policies 100% of the time. No exceptions. Exactly what Soros advocates and funds through multiple organizations. Law enforcement. 100% voting record for defunding police, ending qualified immunity, reducing incarceration. Exactly the agenda Soros has spent $40 million promoting through DA races. Energy policy, 100% support for Green New Deal provisions and renewable energy mandates. These policies directly benefit companies that Soros has major investments in. Foreign policy. She opposes Israel, supports the Iran nuclear deal, criticizes U.S. allies. These positions align perfectly with Soros's stated preferences. Criminal justice. She supports bail reform, decriminalization, reduced sentences, ending cash bail. That's the exact Soros agenda being implemented in cities where his funded prosecutors have taken office. Bongino looked directly at AOC. You're not an independent progressive voice fighting against billionaires. You're a paid spokesperson for George Soros's political agenda. He gives you millions of dollars. You vote exactly as he wants on every single issue. That's the textbook definition of political corruption. AOC couldn't stay quiet anymore. She stood up, her voice rising. This is outrageous. I vote for progressive policies because I believe in them, not because someone— Then why do you take their money? Bongino cut her off, his voice sharp. You've spent your entire career attacking billionaires and dark money, but you've taken $8.2 million from exactly that source. You've tweeted— He pulled up her Twitter feed on the screen. One specific tweet enlarged. Here it is. April 2021, you wrote, and I quote, "No politician should take money from billionaires. It compromises their integrity." End quote. That tweet got 340,000 likes from people who believed you meant it. 2 months after you posted that tweet, you received $500,000 from a Soros-funded LLC. The hypocrisy is absolutely staggering. Bongino moved to his next section. Let's talk about the incident that first drew public attention. The 2024 Met Gala. You attended wearing a custom white dress with "Tax the Rich" written across the back in large red letters. Do you remember that? Of course I remember, AOC said. It was a powerful political statement about wealth inequality. It was a $12,000 custom dress, Bongino interrupted, worn to an event where tickets cost $35,000 each. Let me show you the actual numbers. Financial documents appeared on screen. The dress was custom-made by designer Aurora James of Brother Vellies. According to our investigation, the cost was approximately $12,000. The Met Gala ticket price is publicly known, $35,000 per seat. You also had professional hair and makeup done for the event, which cost $3,000. Total value of what you received that night, $50,000. He pulled out the House Ethics Manual. House rules are explicit and unambiguous. Members may not accept gifts worth more than $390 in any calendar year from any single source. Gifts exceeding that amount must either be declined or the value must be reimbursed to the donor. You claimed the dress was, quote, loaned, and that the ticket was, quote, work-related, because the Met Gala benefits arts education. Is that still your position? Mark Elias jumped in. The event was legitimately work-related. Representative Ocasio-Cortez was representing her constituents and advocating for progressive tax policy through the message on the dress. At a celebrity fashion gala, Bongino said flatly, where celebrities and billionaires pay $35,000 to attend a party. That's congressional work, attending a fashion industry fundraiser for an art museum. He pulled out the relevant section of the ethics rules and read from it. The House Ethics Manual is clear. Events must have a direct connection to official duties. Quote, social events that are primarily entertainment in nature do not qualify as official duties, even if they involve notable persons or causes. End quote. Attending a fashion industry gala is not an official duty. This was a personal social event. The ticket was a gift. The dress was a gift. Total value, $50,000. That's a massive ethics violation. Bongino clicked to his next exhibit. But here's where it gets even more interesting. After you wore Aurora James's dress and gave her company massive free publicity, the images went viral. Her sales increased dramatically, and we found something very curious. Purchase orders filled the screen. In the 6 months following the Met Gala, Soros-funded organizations made bulk purchases of Brother Vellies products totaling $280,000. Courage to Change PAC purchased $95,000 worth. Justice Democrats bought $78,000 worth. Progressive Future Fund purchased $107,000 worth. All of them buying Aurora James's products right after she gave you a $50,000 gift. He looked at the committee. This is a money laundering scheme. Aurora James gives Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez $50,000 worth of dress and ticket. Then organizations that fund AOC turn around and buy $280,000 worth of James's products. James profits. AOC gets her free designer goods. Everyone wins, except the taxpayers and the working-class donors, who think their money is going to progressive causes instead of subsidizing celebrity lifestyles. He wasn't done. Pulled out another thick folder. And the Met Gala isn't an isolated incident. We documented Representative Ocasio-Cortez's appearances at major celebrity events over the past 3 years. Let me show you. Photos began cycling on the screen. 2024 Oscars Vanity Fair After Party. Custom Versace gown. Estimated value $8,000. 2024 CFDA Fashion Awards. Custom Tory Burch Ensemble. Value $6,500. 2025 Met Gala. Custom Schiaparelli dress. Value $15,000. 2025 Time 100 Gala. Custom Carolina Herrera gown. Value $7,000. total estimated value of designer clothing she's worn over 3 years, $152,000. He let that number sink in. That's more than the average American household makes in 3 years in designer clothes. House rules don't have an exception for exposure. If you receive something of value, it must be reported and reimbursed if it exceeds the $390 threshold. Representative Ocasio-Cortez has reported none of these. 0. That's $152,000 in unreported gifts. Each one is a separate ethics violation. Representative Susan Wild, the ranking Democrat, looked genuinely pained. Deputy Director, is it possible that Representative Ocasio-Cortez simply didn't understand the reporting requirements? Bongino shook his head. She understood, Congresswoman Wild. Every member takes mandatory ethics training. She chose not to follow them because she wanted to live like a celebrity without the ethics disclosure that would expose the lifestyle she's actually living. Bongino moved to his final evidentiary section. We subpoenaed Representative Ocasio-Cortez's tax returns for the years 2019 through 2024. They tell a very interesting story. Tax documents appeared on screen. In 2019, she reported income of $174,000 and year-end savings under $4,000. By 2024, her reported income jumped to $634,000 and savings were $284,000. Bongino did the math out loud slowly and clearly. Total reported income over 6 years, $288,000. After taxes, that leaves approximately $1.3 million net income. Even if she saved 50% of her net, she'd have approximately $650,000 in savings. But she owns a $4.2 million mansion. She spent an estimated $150,000 on luxury goods. She's traveled extensively first class. The numbers simply do not add up. There are only 2 possible explanations. 1, she has significant unreported income, tax evasion. 2, the money was disguised as something else, like payments to her boyfriend's fake company, money laundering. Either way, she's violated federal law. For his final presentation, Bongino compiled AOC's own words against her documented actions. The screen split in half. On the left, a tweet from 2021. No politician should take money from billionaires. On the right, a bank transfer showing $1.2 million from a Soros-funded LLC. Next, left side tweet. Dark money is corrupting our democracy. Right side, the 3 wire transfers totaling $4.2 million from dark money vehicles. Next, tax the rich. They don't need multiple homes while working. People can't afford rent. Right side, a photo of her $4.2 million mansion in Wesley Heights. Bongino let the images speak for themselves. The room was completely silent. Finally, Bongino spoke. Representative Ocasio-Cortez has built her entire brand on authenticity. Every single bit of that is a lie. She's enriched herself massively using her position. She lives in luxury. She's funded by billionaires. She is exactly what she claims to oppose. He stacked his binders neatly. That's not just hypocrisy. That's fraud. She's defrauded the supporters who give her money thinking she's one of them. That concludes my presentation. The hearing room was utterly silent. 4 hours of evidence, bank records, mansion photos, payment records to her boyfriend, designer clothes, tax returns, and her own tweets. It was overwhelming, undeniable, and devastating. Chairman Guest looked at AOC. Congresswoman, you have an opportunity to respond to these allegations. What do you have to say? AOC sat frozen. Her lawyers were whispering urgently. Finally, she spoke. This is a politically motivated attack on a woman of color who threatens the establishment. The FBI is being weaponized to target progressive voices. Chairman Guest cut her off. Congresswoman, we just spent 4 hours looking at bank records showing you received $4.2 million from billionaire-funded organizations to buy a mansion. That's not political. That's documentation. How do you explain it? AOC's voice rose. Those were legitimate contributions to support progressive movement building. They went to your personal LLC, Bongino said calmly. To Bronx Future Holdings, which you personally own. Explain how buying yourself a $4 million mansion constitutes movement building. Silence. No answer. Representative Raskin tried to give her an opening. Congresswoman, is it possible these contributions were intended for a charitable foundation you were planning to establish? AOC grabbed at the lifeline. Yes, exactly. We were discussing creating a progressive education entity. Bongino pulled out documents. Bronx Future Holdings was created on May 30, 2025. It received $4.2 million in June. It bought a house on June 15th. That is its only transaction in its entire existence. It owns your mansion. That's all it does. AOC looked trapped. I don't have to justify my personal finances to a committee that's engaged in political persecution. Yes, you do, Chairman Guest said firmly. You're a member of Congress. You're subject to House ethics rules, and the evidence suggests you violated all of them. Mark Elias finally spoke up. Chairman, my client has cooperated for 4 hours, but we are geo-approaching issues that could implicate her Fifth Amendment rights. The room erupted. Taking the Fifth was devastating. Bongino held up his hand. Let me ask specific yes or no questions. Did you receive $4.2 million from organizations funded by George Soros? Elias responded, My client declines to answer on advice of counsel. Did you use that money to purchase a personal mansion for yourself? Declines to answer. Did your boyfriend Riley Roberts receive $1.6 million from PACs you're associated with for work he didn't actually perform? Declines to answer. Bongino sat back. She's declining to answer because the evidence is overwhelming, and she can't explain it without admitting to criminal conduct. AOC's composure shattered. Tears welled up. You're destroying me because I fight for people. Because I'm a woman of color who dares to stand up. Congresswoman, Representative Comer interrupted. We're not attacking you because you're a woman. We're investigating you because you bought a $4 million mansion you mathematically cannot afford, and the FBI traced the money back to George Soros. That's not sexism. That's a financial crimes investigation. The fight drained out of her. She slumped in her chair, mascara starting to run. Chairman Guest looked grim. Based on the evidence presented today, this committee will now vote on the following. Immediate referral to the Department of Justice for potential prosecution of campaign finance violations, tax evasion, and wire fraud. Immediate referral to the IRS. Immediate removal of Representative Ocasio-Cortez from all committee assignments, and a recommendation for expulsion proceedings. He looked directly at AOC. Congresswoman, you are hereby suspended from all committee duties. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. Within an hour, the leaks started. AOC under FBI investigation for financial crimes. By evening, the photos of the $4.2 million mansion were side by side with her at the Met Gala. The contrast was devastating. The Democratic Socialist bartender from the Bronx had become a multimillionaire living in a mansion bought with billionaire money. The wheels of justice moved quickly. The indictment came down in January 2026, United States versus Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Riley Roberts. AOC faced 8 criminal counts, including wire fraud and tax evasion. The trial began in April 2026. The jury deliberated for 3 days and returned with a verdict. Guilty on 7 of 8 counts for AOC. Guilty on all 4 counts for Riley Roberts. Sentencing came in August 2026. Federal Judge Amit Mehta was unsparing. Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, you built your career on fighting for the working class. Your supporters believed you. It was all a lie. You took millions from the billionaires you claimed to oppose. You violated the trust of working people who believed you were one of them. I sentence you to 6 years in federal prison, to be followed by 3 years of supervised release. You will pay restitution of $4.2 million and additional fines of $500,000. The mansion was seized and auctioned off. The House of Representatives voted 300 bani to 41 for expulsion. Her district held a special election, won by a moderate Democrat. The squad fractured as members issued statements of betrayal. George Soros's network scrambled to create distance, and the shell LLCs were quietly dissolved. AOC entered federal prison in October 2026, FCI Coleman in Florida, inmate number 67893, 18. She is eligible for release in 2032. Her social media accounts were deleted. The influencer congresswoman ceased to exist. The lesson echoed through American politics. Eventually, the math will stop adding up. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez thought her brand and identity would shield her. She was catastrophically wrong. She was a grifter, a champagne socialist who used progressive politics to get rich while her supporters stayed poor. The entire fabricated image collapsed, and the champagne socialist became inmate 67893. Because, in the end, fraud catches up with you. The receipts don't lie.